Okay, so we'll start from here, wherever we left yesterday, and hide this little guy. Okay, so let's create the deployment, and we did speak about deployment yesterday, how it is layered, right? You have a deployment inside deployment. We have replica set inside replica set. We have pods. So what we will do first is now, so if you do kubectl get deployments, it will give you all the deployments, and I want to get a specific deployments. I can do slash, or I can do space. If there were 10 deployments, I would have seen only one of them, but I want to look at the manifest. So what is the command to look at the manifest? Anybody remembers?
The -.
Okay, so I have this, and I want to send this to, before I do this, let's make sure dir k8s session. So I'll go into that folder. By the way, don't get confused. mkdir is a Linux command, but you also have it in Windows called md, make directory. So just so that you do not get confused, I've used mkdir. I'm inside the k8s session right now. And what I will do is I'll bring back the same command. The thing is, this might not work. Windows, I have never tried it. If it doesn't work, I'll open up a git bash. Okay. It works. Good. Never thought it will work. So we have kiada-deployment.yaml, but just because we will be using some more commands which Windows might not support, I'll open up this guy over here. I'll take all of the commands that I have run into a notepad so that I can give it to you later in the description of the video. Give me this. Okay, so let's clean this guy up here. This is the command to create the deployment. Take a second to look at the YAML file, and I'm going to close this guy here. So we don't have to shift between. You are able to hear me clearly, right? Loud and clear?
Yes, Samir.
All right. So let's go there and open up that file. That's the recording. Okay, so we have everything in place now. So I'll open up this YAML file. Since we have already gone through the structure earlier, everybody should at least know there's an API version, there's a kind, there's a metadata, and there's a spec. There are 3 things, correct? Like when you start with deployment, writing deployment, you might not know what the API version is, correct? So there are many ways to find it out. You can create a deployment and then find out the way we've done now. There's also this command which I've shown you last time, but I'll say it again. kubectl explain deployments or deployment, one of it. So if you see here, I'm saying explain me about deployments. It says deployments has a version of apps v1. That's what this is, apps v1. Okay, kind, it has a kind, it has an API version, it has a metadata, it has a spec, and it has a status. As I told you, we never define statuses explicitly, it is derived. But there are 4 factors at the top level. If you want to know any one of it, for example, you do not know what the kind is going to be. So I'll do kind. So it will tell you the deployment kind is deployment. Okay, that's what you see over here. Deployment with capital D. Okay, you can keep drilling down if you want to, like you want to understand under the spec what are the different things available, but you're kind of understanding where I'm going, right? So under the spec, if you want to know what all is available, you know, so like for example, process deadline seconds, progress deadline seconds, it's here. Replicas, it's here. Revision history limit, it's here. So you don't have to really remember anything. It's great if you remember. It's great if you're able to copy from somewhere else. But in general, if you forget something, because Kubernetes in general is so big, it's not about complexity. People talk about complexity, but I feel it's not complexity. It's about being tremendously big. There's so many things that you got to remember, right? And you may not remember. So it really helps if you know what these commands are. And kubectl explain would be one of the important commands you should remember, at least while you're starting, so that you can go back to it whenever you need to for any help. Any questions around here? No?
No, we are good.
Guys, all experts. I don't have to teach this anymore. Am I repeating myself? Maybe I am, but all right. So we know that now, how to derive instructions for a manifest. It's very critical for me to tell you, in Kubernetes, everything is manifest, right? What I mean by everything is manifest is in the control plane, what all we have? Quickly tell me.
API server.
API version. API server.
Okay.
Etcd. Scheduler. Controllers. Controllers man.
This is the guy who talks to etcd. Who is he?
API server.
API server. Only API server can talk to it.
Okay. There's a controller manager, right?
Yes.
And there are a lot of controllers, you know that, right? This controller manager is not just one controller manager. There's a lot of controllers that's there. And then there's one more component.
Scheduler.
Schedule.
I'll be
This
back
list-
just in a minute. Just a minute.
Sure. Yeah. We did talk about kubectl. We had never mentioned this earlier, remember? Or maybe we did, and I don't remember. So Kube API server, everybody talks to it using REST protocol or gRPC, mostly gRPC maybe within, but from outside, it's all of it. It's REST calls. Okay, REST API. Anybody knows what REST is?
No, Samir. Could you please explain this API also?
So
What is this API?
So APIs, right, is when I create a service, and so if this is my service, which is, let's say, one of your Connect services, and there's another service. If service 1 wants to talk to service 2, there are, at the top level, there are 2 ways to do it, okay? It can talk using 2 ways. One is, again, this has nothing to do with Kubernetes, okay? Whatever I'm saying, I'm just trying to come to this common ground of what REST is. One can be sync, the other can be async, okay? What is sync and what is async? Sync is a protocol, basically a synchronous protocol. When a service A wants to talk to service B, the expectation is that service B should give a response immediately back to it. What issues it could have is when service A is trying to call service B is not even existing, it is dead. That means this guy is going to get a response back of timeout because it is not able to connect even. Okay. Now, that's the problem with synchronous. With asynchronous, what happens is, and we will talk, REST is a synchronous protocol. Okay, so we'll come back over here. Now, in asynchronous, A wants to talk to B. A wants to have a guarantee that B really gets his message, but A doesn't care about a quick acknowledgement to the message. So there is this system which sits over here, which is called mom. It's like mother, right? No, it is not. It's message-oriented middleware. Okay. What MOM says is, hey, A, you want to send a message to somebody, I will give you a pipe. You put the message into that pipe, and one end of the pipe, A will put message, the other end, B will be connected to. I will guarantee that B will get this message. If the B is dead, I will hold on to that message. I will hold on to that message in my persistent storage. And again, it has nothing to do with Kubernetes. Persistent is basically a storage where you can keep something, right? Nothing to do with Kubernetes. I will keep it in the letter in my persistent storage. And whenever B comes alive, I will deliver to B exactly once. That means as soon as B confirms that it has received the message, this letter will be deleted. So there are several promises that this guy is making, right? Now, when you look at it, this pipe that I said is called queues. Okay. There's another one. A wants to send a message to multiple guys, or A doesn't even care who all consumes the message. So what MOM says is, I will give you, and this is called queue, I will give again another pipe. One end, you can put the message. Okay. The other end, earlier it was just point-to-point connection, right? This point and this point, there was a connection. And for the reason, it is called P2P, point-to-point connection. Over here, it says, one end, yes, you can connect it. The other end, anybody can come and subscribe to it. Okay, and this one is not called queue anymore. It is called a topic. And this is not called a P2P. It is called a pub sub. Can you guess what the pub sub is?
Public subscriber?
No, it's called publisher subscriber. So A is the guy who's publishing it. All this other guy, B, C, D, and it can just go on. This can just go on. A doesn't care who the message goes to. A just puts a message in, and as many systems come up in the future, they all can subscribe to this topic to receive the message. So there
Without
is this.
A's knowledge, Samir?
What is that?
Without A's knowledge, anyone can
Without
subscribe?
A's knowledge. Without A's knowledge. So this is a pretty important concept today. When you eventually a year, 2 year down the line, or maybe even today, you will start hearing about a concept called Kafka. It is Kinesis, which is AWS specific, but this is Apache, which is open sourced, almost similar. It's a streaming system. So Kafka came into existence for streaming, right? What it says is, I will give you a fast streaming mechanism. You put messages over here. as many subscribers connect to it, I will deliver to it. What benefit does it really give us? And again, all that I'm saying over here has nothing to do with Kubernetes, okay? I'm trying to connect the dots to the rest, but this was a very good concept for you guys to know, because somewhere you'll hear about Kafka and you'll have to do something with Kafka. So you'll remember this conversation that I had with you guys.
Is this similar to AWS MQ service?
SMS,
Active MQ.
simple notification service.
No, active MQ.
Simple notification service. There's SNS, SES, which we haven't seen. SES is for emails only, right? If you want to have SMTP kind of a provider, that's where SES comes into. Simple notification service has delivery mechanism tied to it. So SES also might, so if you want to send out emails, you might have SNS connected to SES to deliver. So SNS has got to do with delivery.
AWS MQ is there, I think. Apache active MQ.
AWS, there is AWS for streaming, it is Kinesis and Firehose. There is AWS Stream, if I'm not wrong. I think it is called Stream something. Stream. I don't remember the name.
Yeah,
MQ, I'm not sure.
AWS
MQ might not be a service. You might have to install it as a platform, is what I'm thinking. But there is a streaming service which is available. AWS MQ, I'm not sure. Maybe it is there.
Yeah, we are using some. Yeah.
You're using, maybe it is there.
Using active MQ. No.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say, Mansa, is active MQ. I don't remember if active MQ has been provided as a service by AWS, native service. What I mean by native service is when we install JBoss or install Tomcat on our EC2 instance, we installed that platform. AWS did not give it to us as a service, right?
Yeah, they are
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, they are giving AWS MQ.
Okay, possible. And under the hood, maybe they are using active MQ.
Apache active MQ they are using.
Yep. So yeah, that's the same concept what I'm saying over here, right?
Okay, yeah.
But now let's leave these guys out for now, and let's go to REST, what we originally started with. Okay. So asynchronous, I explained you quite a bit. Let's clean these guys up. So when we talk about synchronous, in synchronous, there are a lot, okay? If A wants to talk to B using synchronous protocol, one of the first methods that came in, which was pretty successful, was a protocol called SOAP. Okay, this was the days where people were talking about web services, and the protocol was using XML under the hood. These were the years when XML became very, very popular. You know how XML looks like, right? Those tags. So this kind of tags is XML. It doesn't have to be X and Y. Okay. So it became very famous. But if you look at the way XML is, eventually when people started communicating with mobile phones and all, XML became very, very verbose. There was too much of details that you had to add around, and it would become like too many lines of code. So they wanted something very, very simple. So now if it's a mobile device wants to talk to B, which is a service, the return data that we were getting, or the data that we were sending at a request, we wanted to have it as JSON. So this was the time when REST, representational state transfer, that's how it is, came into existence. It says, yes, two people can talk to each other over a protocol called REST using JSON as the format, and they can talk to each other. Okay, that's the same thing we were talking over here, REST. Okay, I'm not going into the depth of how REST operates, so on and so forth, and you will not need to know it either in general, but I hope this explains to you what REST is. So what you need to know over here, coming back to this picture, is kubectl is a CLI command line tool which talks to the API server using REST as a protocol, which we will eventually see in one of the topics. They have APIs. We'll see that. But to talk to this guy, you need to have some kind of authentication, right? Where is that authentication information in your local? We have seen it. It's not a new question to you. You all should know it. If you do not know, that's okay. If I go to users, if I go to my user, and if I go to .q, there's this file over here called config. That one, this is the information. And if I remember right, I'd asked you to go through this, specifically clusters, context, users, current context is what I'd asked you to look at. Okay. If you look at it, it will be very easy for you to understand. What we have is a cluster, and we've talked about several times, right? We have clusters. So the cluster is the Minikube cluster. When we play with EKS, eventually, if we get some time, you would see that there will be two clusters, cluster 1, cluster 2, right? So clusters and context are pretty much tied to each other. So this is the same thing. In cluster, you are specifying all the details about certifying authority. Where is your cert located, so on and so forth. It says you have Minikube, and Minikube have a certificate over here. CA cert. Where is CA cert? Here, right? So the cluster that you have to connect to, it gives you all the details about it over here. Okay. Then the server link also is given to you. It's 192.168.5900 because it's locally stored on a machine. If we connect it to AWS, this server information might be different. Okay. Moving down, the name of the cluster is Minikube. In context, we are tying the cluster to which cluster is this context for. So it is for Minikube, the same name. If I change this to 1 over here, I'll have to make sure I'll put a 1 over here. Okay. Otherwise, it will fail. Moving down over here, what is the namespace in that context, right? This is basically the namespace. It will define as which namespace. So we have namespace called kiada. The user that we're going to be using is Minikube. Okay. This is the user information. So context. So if I have to draw this out a little bit for you, I will have a cluster information. I will have a user information. The context is that ties user cluster. And this is context. This is where you will specify what is the user, what is the context, right? That's what it is doing. What is the user and cluster? Okay, not context. So which cluster, which user, and what is the default namespace? Make sense? Are you with me? So if you have more than one user, you're going to just copy this, paste it again. Okay. Yeah. Copy this, paste this again, and then you'll have multiple contexts basically for different user. Our user is Minikube user, which we've not looked at. So don't ask me any questions around user. We are going to look at the users and authentication part. And then we specify what is the namespace that we want to use. What is the default context that we want to use? The default context is the Minikube default context. So there will be context over here, name, right? Name. So if you have more than one context, what should be your default context? That's what this current context is all about. Does it make sense so far? So user, context, cluster. Context could have more than one. Users could have more than one. Clusters could have more than one. So if you have more than one context over here, current context tells you which among this context should be your current context to talk to Kubernetes. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Awesome. So let's move forward. So we said kubectl talks to API server. talks using REST protocol. If it uses REST protocol, what it means is it will use JSON. And you might ask me, everything that we've done over here is YAML, right? So
All the manifests are YAML files.
yep. So if you go here, if I run this and I remove this guy, this is YAML, you know that, but it's also JSON if you want. So this is your JSON format. Make sense? So this communication which will happen will be over REST, which will use JSON under the hood. Okay, so never get confused that, oh, everything we write is YAML. How does it get converted to JSON? It has a way to convert it to JSON and then talk to the services. Okay, let's go. This is the right time for me to show you something very, very important. So last time I had given you a link to Kubernetes cheat sheet, which you'll have to go through several times. This is the one. Yeah, this is the one. So I would want you to go through this, but if you go down, let's read through it. So this is what I want to see, JSON path. Okay, so kubectl config view. Since we were talking about config, let's quickly look at it instead of looking at this guy, and we will come to this one. Kubectl config view, and this is not a new command. You've seen it earlier. -o JSON. So this is the JSON view of the same, this guy, whatever we were seeing earlier, right? This is the one. Okay, this is the JSON view. In that JSON view, what it's trying to do is get the password for the E2E user. We do not have a E2E user. We will use a different name, basically, but we'll use the same command. So what it is doing is it is saying, give me JSON path is a very, very important command that you'll have to remember. Up until now, you have seen -o JSON, -o YAML. But now I'm showing you JSON path because eventually if you go for CK, CKAD kind of exam, this is what will be very, very important for you. Okay. There is a specific convention for this. We will look at it, but I will probably let you do a assignment on it. So kubectl view -o JSON path, and let's see if this guy will work. I want to return, let's say, users. Okay, it starts from here, and I want to return users.
Type symbol.
Oh, curly braces. I'm following the JQ format. There you go. JQ doesn't need those curly braces. JSON path requires it. Okay, so it gives me only the user information, and from this user information, I want to search for name minikube and return. There's no password for it. Let's say we want to return the whole user data, this whole thing, or maybe we can look for client key. There's no password here. So if you really look at it, what it is saying is .users in the bracket. There's a convention for this. Okay, I mean, I will let you JSON path. I don't want you to do this one. I'm pretty sure down there should be something on JSON path. Give me 1 second. I'm sure there was help on JSON path. Read the kubectl overview and learn about JSON path. I think this is the one, if I'm not wrong. That's the one. Okay, I'm going to put this link over here for you if you have to go through it. And we'll get back here to this cheat sheet I put last time, but I'll put it again for you. So let's quickly run through a couple of examples over here so that it becomes easier for you when you go through it. So in users, when you use @, that means it's attribute. Okay, attribute. If you look at this guy, that's the attribute name, and there's a value for it. So what I will do is I will do the same thing what they are doing. Question mark. Oh wait. Question mark. And then I would need those attributes at dot name equals minikube, right? Yeah. If I run it, you're not going to see a difference in response. It will return me the same thing. But what I want, the important piece is this. After I get what I want from the user, which list from that list, right? List of users. So if you see here, it's a list of users. So in JSON, I think nobody over here understands JSON, correct?
Yes, Samir.
Not me, Samir.
So let me do this one. So for your assignment, somebody please, you know what? Somebody please note it down. For assignment, watch YouTube videos about JSON and YAML. Okay. I can go through it, but I think there are several videos which are out there, which will give you an idea about what JSON. So I can quickly read through this, okay, to help you, but don't rely on this. Treat this as an assignment and complete it. Create a document if you have to. I will add this up into the description of the video so you can pick it up from there. Look at it this way, okay? It has a key and a value to start with. So key, colon, value. That's how you separate. And every element is separated by a comma. So key, value, key, value. Wherever you see this curly braces, it means it's an object. It's a complex object. Like the way you see here, right? This is a complex object. That means it will have a key value. So preferences also could have a key value. Okay. Clusters, if you see this square bracket, what it means is it is a list. And if you see closely over here, it's a list of object. So what it means is if I wanted to copy this guy from here and take it over here, and I start going through it. So technically, this is an object. Since this is the object, what it means is inside here, I can do okay. If I wanted to have, let's say, what do I do? Days, let's say. So the days name itself suggests to you that it should be a list. So I could do a list like this, and I could put in directly like that in a list. Or if it's not a literal, what I could do is I would put array objects. Okay, inside here, I will need to have a key value pair. And since it's a object, I could also have time in here. And since there are two elements, I have to separate them by a comma. This should be more than enough for you to know it, but I would still suggest you go. Now when you read this, you understand, right? This is the list. This is the object. Inside the object, this is a key value. This is a key, but the value is the object itself again. Since it's an object, it ends over here. It has a key, value, key, value, key, and a list. And in the list, they have an object. Is this enough for you to know what I'm trying to say? Okay. Now let's do the same with YAML. And again, please treat it as a assignment. Okay. I think we had a YAML open somewhere. Where is it? This one. When you look at YAML, YAML is a little less verbose, but YAML has a very strict indentation formats. For example, if you put this indentation over here, right, it'll fail. It'll not work. And I had shown you last time YAML lint. I know YAML lint as a Node.js module didn't work for us, but always be fearful when you do this for your company. Okay. So you have YAML lint. You don't want to copy stuff from here as is and paste it there. If there is any confidential data, you want to first remove it. Okay. Better than that, I would suggest the Node.js YAML lint that I shown you. See whether you can make it work, because then that way you can do everything locally. And I'm pretty sure your VS Code should have a YAML lint, so you don't have to go anywhere to internet. So please be mindful about it. If you pick anything from your company and put it up on internet, you're going against the policy, basically. You should not be doing it. Okay, so let's say file, YAML file. Where are you? Let's take this guy and should be able to put it over here. And then if I go here, YAML linter is there. Okay, you can install this and it should be able to tell you whether YAML is in right format or not in right format. Okay, we are not going to spend time doing that. It's all part of your assignment. Please try to look into it. Okay, let's go back to where we were, and you'll have to remind me where we were. We were over here. Okay, so we got the object, and from this object I want to get the user, only the user. Okay, so yeah, and it is saying user dot password. So user, let's first get the user, and then we will do what we have to do. User, which is this user. From this user, you can get client certificate. I think in our case, it's only client certificate, client key, and nothing else. So it gives me the user object. And from that user object, from this user object, I just want the client key. So I could do user dot client key. So I get only the client key. So this kind of JSON path expression, if you understand it well, it will be very useful for you when you're doing any kind of automation. Because when you are doing automation, you cannot just tell, go read the JSON file and give me the data, right? This is how you'll do it. You'll use JSON path expression. Is this good enough for you to go and try your hands at it? Just play, and you can do this with anything, basically, okay? You can do it with kubectl, get deployments, -o JSON, and then you can write JSON path, whatever. I keep forgetting this format. It's not easy. Okay, and I can do dot, which will return me everything. Hopefully it doesn't. And I want to get something, let's say, boom, boom. I want to get the image. So items, it has several items. So API version and items. There's a spec, and then there's a template, and then there's a spec, and then there's a container, and then the image. Okay, So let's go to items first so that we can get the items. It gives me the whole items, correct? In the items, if I want to know just the API version, I think I should be able to do that. API version, right? Oh, it's a list. I want all the API versions. If there are multiple, I think this star is what it returns. So it gives me, so if there were more than one objects, it will have given me all. In the items, if you wanted to search by a specific name, right, some name, you can use this kind of expression. But I wanted to get all, so I got, there's just one object, so I'm getting apps v1. In this apps v1, I don't want API version. What I want is container, right? So items, then go down spec, okay, and template. So let's write it down. Dot spec dot template. Return me the template. Hopefully, it returns a template. And in this template, I want to get spec dot containers. After spec, it is containers, right? It's object here. Dot image. So I want this image to be returned to me. Did I miss something? Some name? Oh, containers is object. Is a list. So I'll have to do star if I want all of them. If there was more than one containers in this pod, right, I would have got everything. But there's only one, so I'm getting that one. Does everybody follow this format?
Yes, Samir. Makes sense.
Let's move now to the next one. So I would want you to go read through this, exercise each and every command. If you do not follow something, see, some of them might not be very obvious, right? For example, user and password. If you run this command just out of the box, it will not work for you. It will not return anything because we don't have password under the user. So while running this command, keep that in mind, okay? That it might not return, but understand what it is trying to do based on what I just explained you. For example, if you give this, display the first user, you have not given any entry over here. If you want a list of all users, you want to put star. If you want a particular selection, you want to do this question mark and then @name for the attribute, whatever the attribute is, equals to whatever value you want. Get context. This is another display the list of context. So this is another good one for you. kubectl config get context. As I showed you, kube-ns and kubectx win, you technically don't even need to do this, okay? None of these commands, you have to manually do it. If you didn't have kubectx win and kube-ns win, then the only way that you can actually switch context would be what they're showing over here, okay? But it's still good to know for places where they do not allow you to install kubectx win and kube-ns win, you would still want to do it this way. So it makes sense to read through this, understand these commands, what they're showing over here, okay? Moving down, creating objects, we haven't really looked at it, but we will see this. What we did last time was here. We did it using kubectl create deployment command, okay? Now what we will see is we will see it using the YAML file. So we have already saved the YAML file, if I'm not wrong, over here. I'm going to go and do kubectl get deployments. And then I will do a kubectl delete deployments. Now the deployment is gone. There's nothing in there. But this time I want to create the deployment using the YAML file. Really coming back to this picture, right? Connecting this dot that kubectl can use, submit the manifest, and then get that object created, the pod created, deployment created, and the replica sets created. We have the YAML file over here, just so that you do not feel it's the same one. What I will do is I will change the name over here to Samir. Okay. And the namespace is Kiada, which is fine. I'm thinking we are already in kube-ns win ls. It didn't work last time here. It was working in command prompt. Sorry. Okay. I'm pretty sure we are in the Kiada namespace, so that's fine. We can leave it there. We don't need a lot of other generated stuff over here. Okay. So I'm going to start cleaning it up. So I will remove the status. As I told you, we don't need it. Got rid of it. Let's start from top. API version, we'll leave it. Kind, we'll leave it. Metadata, annotations, that's fine. Creation timestamp, I don't need. Generation, I don't need. Annotation also, I don't need. Let's get rid of it. Let's keep it simple. Labels, I'm adding a label to the deployment called app Kiada. Name is Kiada Samir. Namespace is Kiada. We don't even need, because by default, it will go to whichever the namespace is. Resource version, I don't need. UUID, I don't need. Simple, right? Progress, deadline second, you can keep it if you want to. Replicas, I need to, just for your sake, I will show you as 2 replicas, 2 pods getting created. Revision history limit, we'll keep it there for now. Technically, you don't need to add it. Selector, this is where I was talking about, right? The deployment also, like how we talked about service, needs a selector of the pod. Deployments also need selector. So we are saying this deployment will be tied to pods, which will have label of app Kiada. So I will just change this guy just so that we, you know what, let's not change it now. I will delete it and recreate it. That time I'll show you. The strategy, they're using the rolling update strategy, max search of 25, max available 25. We will not talk about this right now. Let's leave it out. So what I'll do is I will just remove this guy, the whole thing, strategy for now, or you know what, let's comment it out. Okay, we'll open it up later. Template is the most important one. So when we had looked at the picture earlier, we had said there's a deployment. Deployment has replicas, and replicas will tell what are the pods. So when we say what are the pods over here, it has to know, right, from where to create the pod. Pod has its own spec. Okay, so just for the clarity of it, right, what I will do is I will take this guy out from here and create a new file called kiada-pod.yaml. Okay, I don't want deployment. So here, what I will need is for pod, right? I have metadata, I have spec, but that is not the only thing for pod. I need more information. So where will you go? Which command? So pod has a version of v1. So I will add, again, I can copy from here, API version. It's capital V1, no, small v1. Okay, API version, kind is pod. Okay, metadata, I don't need this guy here. Label, I will keep it as Kiada pod. Spec, this guy will need a name. Spec, containers, image is this, image pool policy is this, name. That's a container name, okay, not the pod name. The rest all I'll keep it as is for now. Let's see if we're able to do any magic with it. If it fails, we'll fix it. Okay. So I will come here and list what we have and then do a kubectl apply -f is file, and I want to do kiada pod created. then do a kubectl get pods. There's one pod which is in running state. The name is Kiada. Okay. What I will do is I will go and change this to Samir. I'll run the apply command again and then do a kubectl get pods. There are two because we submitted two, but you see there's the first one is Kiada. The second one is Kiada Samir. Okay, now what I will do is kubectl delete pods. Both the pods got deleted. Okay. The intermediation state. Okay, now let's get to the real magic here, right? So we have created pod. The only thing that we did was we added these two things and we added a name to it. But now let's go back to our deployment. Deployment need to know how to create a pod, right? That's the reason why you have a template. You tell it anytime you need to have a new replica. For example, we said 2 replicas. If we change it to 1 first, and then later on after everything is created, I change it to 3, it needs to know from where, what is the template of the pod, right? Like you remember in AWS, we were creating for auto scaling group, you have to create a template, Sojanya?
Yes, Amit.
Right? So you basically say, here's the AMI. From this AMI, new images, new EC2 instances can be created. The AMI was a template for you. Over here, same way, this is the pod template. And you saw it, I just copied from here, I pasted it over here, added API version, added kind, and added the name. That's it, I didn't do anything. So you can consider it as a pod manifest. The pod manifest goes under deployments.spec.template. That's where it is. And whatever label you specify over here, that label is over here. So if I change this to -Samir, this also has to change it to -Samir. So it has nothing to do with this label. Okay. But let's first create it as is. Okay. And then we will come back to, so this should have gone by now. Yep. So now I will do kubectl apply -f kiada deployments. kubectl get all, right? What was it? Yeah, I don't want to do this. kubectl get all. Yep. So I have my pods. How many pods are there?
2 pods.
Why 2 pods? Why not 1?
We mentioned that 2 replicas.
Replicas 2.
So this is 2, right? Now I
Yes.
want to change it. I don't want to, I want just 1. So what I could do is kubectl edit
Deployment.
Kiada, or what is the name? Okay.
Deployment.
Open up. Yeah, there you go. So I want to change that replica set from 2 to, let's say, 4. I'll close this. And now if I do a kubectl get pods, I should see 2 more come up. Okay. So I will give you this command. Here. So edit deployment. Bye. You already got the deployment over here. Okay. That's the same one. I've not changed to kiada-Samir, so it's here. You can edit and change the replica set if you have to, but kubectl that's the command basically. Let's see if this Kubernetes has it. Yeah, scale command. Okay, so you have a kubectl scale -- help if you have to do it. Set a new size for the deployment replica sets. Okay. Scale -- replicas equals to 1 deployments/kiada-deployment. And now if I do a kubectl get pods, all the 3 are terminating. You see that? Just one running. So this is another way, without editing, if you want to change the replicas, this is the command. Are you liking it so far?
Yes, Samir.
Good. All right. So kubectl get pods -- help. If you see, display one or more. Am I doing something wrong? Like I want all these options. What was the command? Okay. I was expecting something similar when we do a get. Last time, didn't I show you this command, get pod -- help? Am I missing something? If I need to get all the information, all the options, wasn't this the command that I showed you?
Just do it that way, Samir. Kubectl pod help instead of using it. Pods help.
Oh, that might be the one. No. Wow.
kubectl describe pod.
No, describe is not for that actually. Describe is to, so if I kubectl get pods, if I do, right, it gives me this pod. But what I want to do is I want to, if you want to describe those pods, right, you can say describe pods / that name, whatever that name is. It'll tell you more information about that pod. It's almost like the -o YAML thing that we do. Describe DSC. Yeah, that's the YAML that you get, right? But what I want is I wanted to get help on pods. I remember we did it last time, and why is it not giving me?
Pod help, I think, instead of pods.
kubectl?
Pod help. I'm not sure how it is.
Oh. Strange. I very well remember we have done this. So get. Oh, there's some error here actually. Error calling flag usage. Yeah, you know what? Let me do this in command prompt. I think there's something wrong here. kubectl get pods -- help. Yeah, you see this? This is what I was talking about. I was like, what's going wrong? Why is it not getting it? So this is an important one for you, right? Now, if you go down, there's a field selector to filter on supports equals, and not equals. So field selector key equals to value comma key equals to value 2. The server only supports a limited number of fields. So when I do a kubectl get pods, so if anytime you have a question, right, go to this cheat sheet. So if you do field selector over here, it tells you you want to find all the pods that are in running state, let's say, okay, or while they were terminating, you wanted to get only the ones that are in terminating state. So how it really works is kubectl get pods, and if I do a kubectl get pods, this gives me this specific pod, correct, which is in running state, but I wanted to get something that is in terminating state. How do I really get it? That's where the field selector comes into picture. So it is saying status dot phase. And how do we get that status dot phase? Minus O YAML status. There should be a phase. Do you see phase anywhere? Here, right? Status dot phase.
Samir, is there an UI to run all these commands that kubectl is doing?
Lens, Romana.
Lens.
Yeah. You will never want to use these commands. The only reason I'm walking you through these commands is because if you're going to answer that CK or CKAD, this command that I'm showing you will be important for you.
Okay.
Right. But otherwise, that lens is pretty much is going to do everything that you want to do. Okay, now instead of running, there's nothing basically, no resources that are terminating. If I want to do running, so these are all the pods that are in running state only. Okay, so that was about field selector. There is one more, which is selector over here. Okay, let's do one thing. Instead of me trying to go through each and every command, right? Why don't you go through this cheat sheet, try to run those commands, and then come back with the commands that you felt was difficult and you didn't understand. Does that help?
Yes, Samir, we will go through them.
Sure, because there's so many good commands that I would really want you to understand. For example, there's a sort by command. If you wanted to sort the fields by whichever way, I would want you to look at that. I wanted to look at kubectl get events or events. So this is about all the events that have been done since the time we logged in here. So it'll show you the container got created, started. So anytime there's a troubleshooting that you need to do, you're probably going to come here and take a look at it. Okay. All right. I think we've kind of covered a lot of stuff today. We looked at how a pod can be created. We looked at how a deployment can be created from a YAML file. We looked at how to edit it and change it. We looked at how to change the replica using the scale command. I would want you to practice all of it. Okay. Then what I would want you to really do is create a image which is your own image, not this image. You remember we created images earlier using our own Docker file. Upload that image to your Docker Hub, okay? And then pull, instead of this image name, add your image name over here, whatever that image name is, okay? And see whether you're able to download it. There's one more thing that I want to show you is kubectl get SA. Okay, we are using the default service account. If I do get SA minus O YAML, you'd see that this is the manifest for the service account. Okay, in this service account, if at all you're putting your image in JFrog and you want to pull the image from JFrog, because by default it will pull from hub.docker.com, right? If you want to pull from JFrog, how are you going to do that? So For that, you need to have something called as image pull secret. You should be able to define it in the pod itself if you want to, but I usually prefer to have it at the service account level. So it's basically patching the service account and adding an image pull secret over here instead of API version. In place of API version, there'll be image pull secret, and you'll be specifying this particular guy is a Docker secret, which we haven't looked at it yet. Okay, so that's the reason why I would hold on to that, since I haven't shown you Docker secret. But next time when we come up, right, I would want you to ask me this question. Let me see here. I want you to ask me this question because this is a very important piece of information for you, which you need. Is, can I clear this off? What you need is today, this is hub.docker.com. So in today's world, what I want you to do is I want you to update your deployment manifest to use an image that you've uploaded over here. This guy here, right? So whatever you uploaded, this will still work because there's no auth. There's no auth. But instead of putting it over here, if you put it in jfrog, and then if it has to bring it here, it has to provide auth, right? How will it provide auth? It will not be able to provide auth, correct? So to do that, what this is the one that it is explaining about how do you create a secret. So it is creating a secret over here with the username and password, okay? And that name, whatever it has given, my registry key, they will be setting it up as a image pull secret over here for this service account. Are you understanding me, or am I complicating it?
Yeah, clear, Samir.
It's clear, right?
Yes.
So I will put this. I will put this link for you. In the description. So that's the first assignment for you. Can somebody add this into the assignment list later?
Yeah, I will add that, Samir.
Go through the AWS cheat sheet and practice. You don't have to wait until the session, okay? You can just send me email or put it up on the chat and I can answer you there. The next one is use the same YAML. And update the image that you the Docker image that you built and pushed to Docker Hub. You don't have to do anything. Next.
Can we execute Docker login command in Minikube? Samir?
Docker login command. Why would you want to do Docker login command, Jyoti?
Can we pull directly the executing Docker pull command?
No, you would not want to do it, right? Well, that's where my question is. Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do Docker pull in Minikube? When I say that, I'm asking you, why do you want to explicitly do Docker pull?
I just got my doubt.
No. What I'm saying is, it's okay to have doubt, but my question is there a reason why you would want to do a Docker pull? You want to, okay, let me put it this way. So you're going to bake a Docker image from wherever you were doing earlier, right? Let's say you were doing it in EC2 or you were doing it anywhere where we were building the Docker image, and you'll push it to your Docker Hub. Is that clear?
Yes, clear.
Once it is there in Docker Hub, what you're just going to do is you're going to update your manifest file. You'll not do a Docker pull in Minikube. You're not going to do it. The infrastructure is going to do it for you. The only thing that it did, right? Even for this image, we didn't pull it, right, ourselves. It pulled by itself. Correct?
Yes.
So instead of this name over here, you're going to put your name, whatever is your account name and the image name and the tag, that's what you're going to put over here. Okay. It will automatically pull it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Unless and until you're making it private. If you make the Docker image private, then it will not be able to pull. So don't do, I have not even taught you how to make it private in Docker Hub. So don't worry about it. Okay.
Okay.
Did I answer your question, or were you asking something completely different?
Clear, Samir.
Okay. The next one is the image that you uploaded to Docker Hub. Upload it to jfrog 2. And try to use the image from jfrog in let me see this guy. This is one image pull secret. This is another way. So in the pod manifest itself, you can put the image pull secret. Okay. I will tell you the two cases, and then I'll tell you why I prefer one over the other.
Samir?
Yeah.
If you define it at service account level, and then you also define at pod level, that might get overwritten, right?
No, hold on to your question, Romana. I will come to it. Those are two different things. Okay. Give me a second. Let me finish this first. You will have to create a secret that reference in either or SAS. Okay. So first of all, let's try to create a secret, okay? Because I haven't shown you how to create a secret. So let's create a secret. But before we go to create a secret, let's assume we don't know anything about secret, how to do it, okay? So what I will do, I'm going to come back to your question, Romana. So please hold on, okay? You might not even have a question after I talk about this. kubectl create secret --help. So there are available commands there is Docker registry, there is generic, there is TLS. Okay, create a secret for use with a Docker registry. Generic is create a secret from a local file, directory, or literal value. TLS is create a TLS secret. There are three types. What this guy is showing over here is it is showing a generic. Let's look at this guy over here. It is showing a Docker registry. So technically we want Docker registry. Okay, but let's just follow this one for now. Create secret generic and then the name. Okay, these are three types. Okay, I'm using the generic and the name they're using is reg cred or registry credential. It can be any name. Okay, it can be Samir over there. I want to create it. It's saying created from a file. So it is creating from a Docker file. If you notice it, part to the Docker config.json file. If we have that file, we'll create it from there. But if we do not have that file, we have to create using a username and password, right? So that's why I would not go to this guy. I would rather go to this guy over here, which is Docker registry, which will allow me to connect to the server, provide the username, provide the password, and the email address, which is optional. Okay. When I go to JFrog, the JFrog Docker registry will have a URL. That is what that server is. I will have a username and I will have a password for that. Okay. And then the email address can be your own email address. This is not really used for anything. This is basically, if I go here and hopefully I don't have Docker installed, but if you have a Docker install, right? You remember we had the Docker config file. In that Docker config file, we had added authentication. You can pick up those details basically from there if you want to. Okay. Is that clear or not clear? Do you remember there was a Docker config file that we had looked at and there was a authentication in there, like something like this? That's it. These guys are not showing it over here. Do you remember that auth part of Docker? Here, but that's what this guy is doing actually, the Docker config.json file. Okay. I will have to go start my EC2 instance basically. Okay, let's do one thing. Give this a shot. Okay, give this a shot. What I will do is I will just create a secret just for your purpose over here. And let's see if this guy gives me any help. So it does give me some help. It says create secret, generic, whatever. I don't want to do it from file. I want to do it from literal. That means I want to give the key and the value pair. So here, if you look at it, it is trying to create a secret from literal. You can create a secret from file. You can give the file name. Okay, I will create it from literal. So kubectl create secret generic, the name of my secret. And in that secret, I'm having two. One is key, one equals to this, and key 2 equals to this. So let's go ahead and create this. Okay. And then I will do kubectl get. What will be the command to get the secret? I got my secret over here, which is this one. Okay. I'm going to do kubectl get secrets my secret. Ouch. And I want to do a -o YAML just to show you that I didn't have to do it using this declarative command. I could have used that file command too, So I could technically use this guy, create a file, and then this one is a base 64 encoded value, okay? Key 1 and value, right? This is the base 64 encoded.
So here in one secret, we have two keys.
We have two keys. You can have as many keys as you want.
What does this key?
What is that? Here.
Okay.
I could have called it as a user ID and a password. Instead of key, I could have called it user ID. Key 2, I could have called it as password.
Okay, user ID and password. So key and
Yeah.
values. Okay.
Key and value, right? So instead of that key, the user ID, I'm calling it as key 1. For this one, we're calling it key 2. And this is a base64 encoded value, basically, which is super secret, basically, here for key 1. And the other one will be top secret. So if I go here and I do a echo this, copy it. Echo this, and you can even do this in the VS Code as I've shown you earlier. See that super secret? That's what. So this is only base64 encoded. So once I create this secret, right, I should be able to use this secret in the pod, which we haven't seen yet. Okay. In the next session, what we will see is we will see how to use the secrets into the pods. But if you successfully complete your assignment, right, I would not even have to explain it. Now coming to the question that Romana asked, if we do it in both the places, will it not override? Yes, it will. Okay. So usually what people do is they never, most randomly, they would use it on the pod, because if you do it on the pod, and if you just have one JFrog artifactory, right? You don't have one JFrog artifactory for X project, another one for Y project, third one for Z project. You don't have it. There might be company who do it that way. If they do it that way, then you would have to use the one that is for pod, right? Each of your pod might want to have a different secret provider. What I prefer is I don't even expect my pods to tell me what is the image pull secret they will use over here. Rather, I apply it to my service account. What it means is that is what will be given to you by default. And another thing, another beautiful thing, what is there is if I go in here and if I look at image pull secrets, this is a list. This hyphen means a list. So I can create as many Docker secrets as I want, pointing to each and every artifactory. And in my service account, I can tell if somebody comes with regcred as your image that has to be searched for, okay, how you might ask me, Samir, how does it know that it has to use it? Okay, let me copy this guy. I'll copy this one over here. I'll put some more over here. 2 and 3. You can add as many secrets as you want. You might ask me, when you give your image name over here, when you give the image name over here, how does it really know which secret it has to use? It knows it because when you create the secret on top, when you created the secret on top over here, you have given it the server name, correct? That server name should have details of what is the domain name is. And if you remember right, when we tag and push the images, we always have to add the server name. This will be the server name at the top level. Remember that? When we pushed it to Docker Hub, the Docker registry, the top level name, when we had to tag, that was the name of the host. You remember, or you have forgotten it?
Yes, Samir, remember.
Right. So that name will match with this name over here. Okay. So when it goes and checks, there's this image over here, it'll go to the secret and it'll find all the secrets that you've created. Where does it match? Which secret does it match? Once it knows which secret does it match from one of these, basically, it'll be able to use whichever user ID and password it needs to use from. Okay. So if I have to draw it out, just to make it a little clear for you, you have your JFrog artifactory over here. JFrog artifactory will have some DNS name for the Docker registry. You will create, first step will be secret. In secret, you specify the server, you specify the user, you specify the password, you specify the email, correct? This server is this DNS name, okay? Now, second, you update the service account and you add image full secrets. And you give here name, right? And this guy also has a name over here. This name matches this name. Okay. Now the last piece of the puzzle is you create a pod or deployment YAML, right? Whatever that is. It's eventually pod manifest. In the pod manifest, you specify the image. Well, you don't have to specify it over here. You specify the image. When you specify the image, you specify the DNS name over here, /image :tag. Okay, so what it does is basically it doesn't directly go there. It goes through each and every image full secrets and it check if there is any image full secret where the DNS name matches with the DNS. The DNS over here matches with the DNS in the secrets that you have specified over here. If it matches, then it knows the match is found, and then it will use the user ID and password. Does this flow clear things out to you? I mean, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Samir, this diagram given more clarity.
It's a pretty complex topic if you really look at it, because there are so many moving parts to it, right? You could get overwhelmed, but anytime you have a problem like this, draw it out. Not only for this problem, right? In general, draw it out and see how they are all connecting together. It will make a lot of sense. So with this said, what I want you to do is a couple of things, right? Which is over here. And Romana, I think I've implicitly answered your question. You will never use both. I always recommend to use a service account patched image full secret. Worst case, if you cannot update your service account, but you still want to use it, then you'll use it for your pod. And if you use for your pod and if you have it for also the service account, then your pod is going to override the service account's password. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Samir.
Okay.
And also you're listing many secrets for a pod. That's for a reason, because pod can host multiple containers. And
Pods can host multiple containers. No.
right? No?
No.
Pods can have multiple containers, right?
Pods can have multiple containers, but it has nothing to do with the secrets that you saw. If you're getting confused that I have created a generic secret over here with more than one data under it, then that's not right, because when you do it for Docker, so for Docker, you're not going to use generic secret, you're going to use a Docker registry secret. kubectl create secrets. So where was that? Why I keep forgetting this? kubectl create secret. Yeah, this one. So I told you there are three types. When you create generic, you can create multiple data element under it. Okay. When you create Docker registry, you're going to specify. So if I do over here, create secret Docker registry -- help. In this one, if you look closely, from file, you can either create it from a file, or you can specify when you create it from a file, this file already has details of what it needs: the server, the username, and the password and the email. Otherwise, this is how you'll create it, Romana.
No. I think I didn't. I was not clear in asking. So back to the diagram. Inside a pod manifest, like where is that? You had a list of secrets, and you said, how will a pod know which secret to use, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's this one. Yes. So you are giving multiple secrets here, assuming pod can host multiple.
Wait. This is not going to be pod. This is going to be service account. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's the service account. So what is service account? When you look at your pod manifest, I don't know whether it specifies it over here. Okay, let's do this.
But
kubectl.
otherwise it makes sense, right, Samir? Pod can have multiple secrets, assuming multiple containers within it can use different secrets, depending on where it wants to pull the image from.
Yeah, that makes sense. But just hold on, Rumana. Let me answer the first part of the question first. kubectl create maybe we'll look at over here. In your pod, right? You're able to specify, use multiple service accounts, get service account. Where is the pod manifest? kubectl. So for your pod, right? There should be a service account name over here. See that under the spec? You can specify. We didn't really talk a lot about service account. Maybe that's the reason why you have this question is when you create a pod, that pod should have some permission to perform something within the namespace. Okay. By default, that permission is given to it by a default service account. Okay, default service account has its own limitation. There might be a case wherein you want the pod to access some APIs which we've not even seen, and that's the reason why I didn't talk about this. Is you might want to change the service account. You might want to create a brand new service account. So there's a kubectl create service account command where you create a service account and you'll give it elevated permissions. Okay. And when you give it elevated permission, you would want to create a pod assigning that service account to the pod. And how do you do that? This is how you do it. You specify which service account do you want to use. Okay. Now for that service account, so let's assume, I mean, what we did was we did it with the default service account. So this is our default service account. What I did is I said I can add image pull secrets under it. And this is where I specified the Docker registry secrets X, Y, Z, A. Okay.
Okay.
Then when I created my pod, so this is a service account which can be used by multiple pods, correct?
Correct.
So this is a common service account, which is the default service account. I added image pull secrets to it. Now, when I assign by default, the service account that get assigned to the pod is a default service account. I have patched the default service account with the names of the secrets that I can use. So it automatically gets the pod when it wants to search for an image. And if it doesn't find the image in Docker Hub, it will want to pull it from somewhere else. So the first thing that it will consult is the image pull secret if the service account has it. First of all, it will check if there's an image pull secret for the pod. We haven't specified it. Then it will say, does the service account has an image pull secret? Yes, it has. Then it will say, okay, let me go look at each one of them and see if the server name matches with the image that you've specified. So my question to you is, we have added this multiple image pull secrets for the service account. Now coming to your actual question, if you have a pod manifest, if you look very, very closely to it, spec has containers. These containers, you see that?
Yep.
I can add as many containers as I want. And that service account for service account detail goes for the container. It is not for outside. So if I have multiple containers, each of the containers I can add service account if you don't want to follow this format.
Got it, Samir. I'm clear.
Yeah. So I would suggest you, that's the reason why what I'm saying is this documentation that I'm sharing with you, right? Please do go read it once, and then we can probably have a better conversation.
Yeah, confusion arise because the kind was specified as pod over, pod over there where you listed multiple image secrets, right? Full secrets. Yeah.
All right. This for service account. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so many little topics that I have to cover. The only thing is it becomes very tough to understand what to explain first because there are so many things that are tied together. So I'm trying to make sure I'm not creating a spaghetti where you feel completely confused and lost. That's the reason why I didn't bring in the concept of service account. But since I was talking about image full secret, I had to talk about service account. But I think this should give you a lot of details of how to move forward and how to play around with Kubernetes. Please do play around, because if we do not play around, the next session, it will be a lot more difficult for me to explain. I'm going to stop here for now. Let me stop the recording, but